Hey everybody, Dan Walters, Treasure Valley Property Solutions and iBuyHousesBoise.com. Continuing this conversation about the process of foreclosure and kind of what happens along the road. And with me today, I've got a good friend of mine, Leon Baker with Academy Mortgage right here in the Nampa area. He's been in the industry for a long time, but what we wanted to do today was really spend a little bit of time and talk about the impact of your credit and also kind of some resources that a financial lender or an institutional lender can help answer some questions and also kind of guide through the process from what they see on the other side when they look at credit and they talk to people that are either trying to qualify for a loan, refinancing a loan, or in the process of maybe heading down a path that they are trying to avoid. So really, Leon, first, why don't you kind of talk about your experience, you're in the industry, how long you've been in it, and kind of how long you've been in here in the Valley, and just a little bit about yourself.
Well, very good. Well, my wife graduated from Northwest Nazarene in 1993. We got married the year before that, 1992. We've been in the Valley since then. Raised our kids here and really enjoy being part of this community. It's a great place to live and grow up and have a family. So I know that you guys are feeling the same things, all those joys that we get by being part of this community. So it's nice. I started writing loans in 1996. So I've been working for brokers. I've worked for a couple of mortgage bankers, and that's my experience through the years. So we've seen a lot of things come and a lot of things go, but at the end of the day, there's just a lot of opportunities to help people and sometimes get into places and sometimes keep their place and sometimes maybe find ways to get out of debt. So that's what I enjoy doing.
Yeah. So Leon, like I said, so with your experience, what I really want to focus on here is three parts, right? So we work and specialize in just reaching out to people that are in some need. They've had some life events happen to them, and oftentimes, if it's in a specific case, a foreclosure, they find themselves really just trying to get day by day or figuring out what some of their solutions may be. And oftentimes when they reach out to the internet, and there's a lot of there's a lot of information out there that is or isn't accurate, but you can't really tell what is. So we really want to kind of step on the side of, in your experience as a lender, and the impact of credit. Okay. So really, we usually talk to people in the initial stages. They're probably in that 60 to 90 day time frame, right as the default's hitting. But leading up to that point, they know it's coming because they've had that event and they're just trying to figure out what's going on. So as a lender, what do you see happen, and with your experience, the impact of what's happening to their credit at that point in time, when they start missing that 30 or 60 day payments, and kind of what's, I just want to expand on that a little bit.
Well, first, my sympathies, because that's not a fun situation to be in. It can't be good. I've had family members that have been through similar situations, and it just it's gut-wrenching, and so my empathy goes out to you. However, this is not the time to sit back and feel sorry for yourself, because a lot of things can be done early that can't be done later. So I would say being proactive is probably the most important thing that you can do when things start sliding the wrong direction. One resource that you might want to know about is Idaho Housing. You may or may not have your loan with Idaho Housing, but Idaho Housing does financial counseling for people that are in a situation where they're about to lose their home. You can reach them at 208-331-4888, and they'll do financial counseling for you. So they might act as a liaison between you and your lender to try to smooth things over, maybe give you a couple of other good ideas, but that's a resource that you might want to take advantage of. They're located in downtown Boise, or you can reach them by phone, but that's something that you might find as a useful tool.
So real quick to expand on that, because that's a great point. Because one of the things right now that they may be experiencing as a consumer, that they're probably getting a lot of phone calls if they missed 30 or 60 days, and so they might be getting a lot of phone calls, and it's about collecting a debt. Obviously, the bank, their lender, it is a business for them, and so sometimes they might be avoiding that phone call. Would you encourage them to pick up that phone and actually talk to the lenders and see what kind of programs they have available to them to actually work with them?
Yeah, I totally would. I think it's really important to be in contact with your lender, especially if you have something coming up that can maybe get you out of this problem. But even if not, I think it always lends in your favor to be in communication with the lender, because if they're not getting a response from someone, then they're going to be like, well, these guys are going off the tank and they're just not going to work, so we're going to have to do something ourselves and file that NOD maybe right on time, as opposed to maybe with a little bit of a delay. So I think being in contact with your lender right away about what's going on. In fact, if you can call them before they call you,
Right.
I think that's all the better. And then, of course, you want to keep good notes about who you spoke with and what you said and what they said and things of that nature, so you have something to rely on as you need to look back, because probably you're going to need to look back at those things as time progresses. But definitely being proactive early is super important. Next, usually we're in this problem because we don't have enough income to pay our debt, right? And so then I'd say, well, let's start prioritizing. So what's the most important thing? Well, your house is the most important thing. It carries the most wealth. It carries the most wealth opportunities for you, and it's the place you live. And so, gosh, can I live without, even if you had your car picked up, I guess you probably could find a way, but finding a house and a place for your family to live is really, really difficult. So I would say certainly prioritize your house payment over everything else. If that's the only payment you can make your house payment and catch it up as quickly as you can. But there's a lot of things that go on in life. There's medical things, and well, we're not going to be able to help you with this if you can't pay that and whatever else. I would just say medical seems to be the most conducive to being paid later. And so even some lending types, we don't even have to care about medical collections even. So I would say if it's a medical event that's caused this, and often it is, then I would say, do what you have to do, pay them last. But definitely pay your house first. That's probably the thing you'd regret most, is not paying your house payment on time. No. And when we say on time, your house payment is late. It's due on the 1st. It's late on the 2nd, technically, but you don't have a late penalty until you're 15 days past due. That's when you pay that 15-day penalty. But it doesn't report to the credit bureaus until you're 30 days past due. And I say 30 with a qualification because really, if your February payment is due February 1st and you pay it March 1st, well, it's not technically 30 days late, but it's paid the month following the month that's due. It's considered 30 days past due. So just make sure to make the payment. Do everything you can to make sure the payment is made in the month that it's due. And that's the best thing that you can do. Even if you're catching them at 29 days, month after month after month, it'll never show to your credit report that way, and your lender will be happy. So I would definitely prioritize that as the first line of defense against someone taking your home away. As you mentioned, as you progress down that road, let's say now you do have a 30-day past due, and now you're looking at what am I going to do to pay my next payment. I'm looking at going 60 days past due. I believe that most lenders file the NOD after you've missed the second payment and you're 60 days past due. Some of them will wait till 90. I suppose it varies from lender to lender, but I believe they have the right to do that after you're 2 payments down, 60 days past due. And so then you'll have a notice of default filed, and it's a public notice. They put a notice on your door, and they're saying, hey, in 120 days or 90 days, we're going to have an auction for this house if you don't catch your stuff up. So you do have a period of time after the notice of default has been filed to resolve the mortgage.
Right.
And so go ahead.
So with that, so what do you see as the impact in that first 90-day window? What as a lender, when you pull, what do you see as the impact to their credit and what's happening from that point?
Yeah, so the issue is that your credit score is going to tank really hard with a 30-day payment, and it's going to tank all the harder with a 60. So what we find is, gosh, you were a 660 score or a 700 score before your late payment of 30 days, and now that you have a 60 days past due, probably your scores are sub 600 at that point. It happens pretty quickly. And so there are minimum credit scores required to do certain loan types. FHA is the most liberal in terms of credit guidelines, and the party that we get the best interest rates from is through Idaho Housing. They want a 620 score. They'll do it with a 600 score. It costs more, but they'll do it. But just score alone does not necessarily mean you can do a loan. You might have to have a period of time after your last mortgage payment before you can do a loan. So as an example, if you were not able to get an automated approval, which is to say we send it through Desktop Underwriter and it comes back with an approve, and you had a 30-day past due, and by some act of grace you got an approval on that, you have to do a manual underwrite. And once you have to go to a manual underwrite, there are certain hard credit requirements. In other words, you could not have a 30-day past due payment on your mortgage in the last 6 months. Couldn't have more than one in the last 12 months, and so forth. So then you have to say, okay, well, I caught my mortgage up, and now I have to keep it clean for 6 or 12 months before you can do something, and that may be difficult. So again, being proactive early is by far the most important thing you can do.
Right. Yeah, so there's a lot of technical aspects to this. Obviously, as you can see, Leon's well versed in this, and that's part of the reason. Like, as a lender himself, looking at this, trying to benefit you as a consumer and you as trying to save your house in whatever shape or form. Obviously, the very first thing which we always talk to people about first is like, are you talking to your lender? And as you can see, it's the big thing here, because as you get farther down that road, there is a harder impact to your credit and can limit you in your options in what you need to do with your house as far as trying to save it. So especially if there's equity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if there's equity there, because that, like Leon said, it's your greatest wealth. It's one of your largest investments that you'll make in your life. So to capture and save that equity, save the house, being proactive. Okay?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So let's fast forward. So obviously those first 30 to 60, 90 days is going to have a pretty steep impact to the credit, and it's going to really limit them on their options to be able, especially if they have equity or not, whatever that may be, and what they can do possibly for a refinance or maybe a second to kind of catch up a little bit, but they kind of cushion and help themselves out. But let's say somebody just sticks their head in the sand and says, you know what, I just can't deal with that I just can't deal with it right now, which we've seen and we understand because
it's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
It's not the only thing going on in life right then.
Exactly.
There's other big deals, and it weighs.
Right. So let's just, for instance, somebody sticks their head in the sand and says, you know what, it's just too much to deal with right now. I got to deal with all this other stuff. And if the house goes to sale, they get the foreclosure, they lose the house, but yet they have this dream of owning their house, owning their own home again.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of tell me about your process when you sit down with somebody that has had a foreclosure on their record, kind of the timeline and the process. And I understand every situation is different per individual, but just a blanket kind of, you as a lender, when you look at that, what's timelines and the ability for them to kind of be able to buy again?
Sure. Most people think that once they've had a foreclosure, they have to wait 7 years, and for conventional lending, that's true. So when we say conventional, we mean Freddie Mac, and Fannie Mae. Let me start that again. Most people, when they have the idea of a foreclosure, they think they have to wait 7 years. And for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, which is what we call conventional, you do have to wait 7 years following a foreclosure before you can purchase again. However, there's other loan types, and for instance, if you're a veteran, it's only 2 years after a foreclosure, 2 years after a bankruptcy. If you're not a veteran, you have the option of using FHA, and FHA only needs 3 years following a foreclosure, 2 years following a bankruptcy. And so those are reasonably short time frames when you think about a foreclosure and being able to buy again. To be able to say, I'm going to foreclose on my house today and in 3 years I can buy again, well, that's pretty great. So I think that makes sense of a lot of situations. Not everyone needs to have a foreclosure. Not everyone needs to go into financial bankruptcy, but there are those situations, and that's why we have those options available to people. And I think that's a reasonably short time frame to be able to get back in the market and buy. And I think holds a little bit of hope for most people who are just like, this is just not going to work. I've got to, let the dust settle and try something else later. 3 years is a pretty reasonable period of time. And even so, being an FHA loan, it's only 3.5% down payment. So you've got 3 years to save 3.5% on the sale price you think you might be at the time. And that's plenty of time to put yourself ahead and make some good choices, especially because usually after foreclosure, people are coming out of there with very small other debt. So pretty reasonable terms in regard to being able to get back into the market following a foreclosure.
Yeah.
Better than most would think.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the misconceptions that people have is that, well, it's going to be 7 years, and it is. It's not. There's a million different programs out there and different types of lenders, and people have all different types of boxes that they fit in. So it's understanding, hey, that there is a kind of standard, but at the same time, there's all kinds of options to explore. So really, it's about being informed more than anything else, and regardless of where you're at some point, it's just a matter of pushing through and forging through this wall of fear and this pit that people are kind of in, understanding that, it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy at all.
No.
But facing it and dealing with it, you'll be much better off on the other side.
For sure.
So.
Yeah.
Is there any other concepts?
Sometimes people have help from family, and it can be a little bit like, well, I kind of want to help you, but I don't want to help you, and then you lose your house, right? So if you have family members that are willing to help, definitely get them involved early, especially when talking about, hey, what can we do to help save this place? having those conversations early is really helpful. And maybe the solution is, combining some debt. So if that's something that we can help you with, and you're in a period where you're not 60 days past due yet, and you want to take a look at that, we'd love to help and see if we can use some of that equity that you have to consolidate other debts and maybe save a lot of money. Boy, having cash flow in your budget really, really makes a big difference in what you're able to do. Maybe you have a family member who's willing to take a second mortgage on your house or their house to help you put some things together and weather the storm. So I think it's a time when it's like, I don't really want to talk to anybody, this is embarrassing, it's hard. But there can be solutions out there from people that you know well and love that want to help you and want to help you save your home, especially if you have an equity position where it's like no one wants to see you lose that much equity. So that's another way that maybe things can come together. But if nothing else, do everything you can to make your payment on time. And it's kind of funny, people say, well, bankers want to write home loans so they can foreclose on properties, and that's the last thing we want to do. The average cost to a lender to foreclose is $30,000. Please help us not have to foreclose on your home, is the view I have from my side of the desk. So anyway, I know you're talking with a servicing department and they can only do so much, and sometimes people are hardened to that, but at the end of the day, lenders do not want to take your home back, so let's find a way not to have to do that, I think is the open door for you to walk through. If you have that attitude like, hey gosh, let's figure a way out, let's find someone on the other end of the phone that's willing to have that same mindset, then usually there's something that you can do to help avoid this big collision. So anyway, I hope that's helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up here, again, as you're watching this, there's some different options, right? Wherever you are in this process, and you found this here, if somebody like Leon and all the technical issues, the things that Leon spoke to, if that resonates with you, and that's in your early on in the stages where you might still be able to get into and save your house for whatever reason, I'd encourage you to reach out to Leon and his team. They're right here in the Valley. If you want to give a quick plug to your company.
Oh, sure. I'm with Academy Mortgage. It's been a fantastic relationship. I love working here, and we're located at the Idaho Center, 5680 East Franklin Road, suite number 110, first right on the left in the Pioneer Title Building. And whatever we can do to be helpful, we'd be happy to do. And sometimes the only solution is to try to sell your home, and Dan is a fantastic man. I know he'll take great care of you, and he has a lot of compassion and a lot of expertise and the ability to help you in a situation that's really tough. So I love Dan, and sometimes that's the right decision, and sometimes we can be helpful, and we just want to give you information that you can help walk down that road with. So
I appreciate that. And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so like I said, if you're on that end of it where you want to give them a call and look at some options, certainly do that again. But if you're at this point where, hey, you know what, I just realized that life is just too much to bear right now, and really simplifying what we can and focus on the things that matter, which is maybe family or your health or whatever that is, and you just want to be able to take the next step and just alleviate some of that weight off your shoulders, obviously reach out to us, and we're happy to consult you, give you some call or give you some information on how we can help you and giving you a fast, quick solution. So Dan at Treasure Valley Property Solutions, iBuyHousesBoise.com. Just reach out, engage, happy to chat. But Leon, appreciate it, man.
All right, man.
As always.
Thank you very much.
You bet.